Thank you, Mark, and a big hello from London. Quite a few weekly and now monthly technical patterns to discuss this time, as this past weekend we also had ones for May to look through. So I'll start with the weekly technical patterns for last week. In the currencies, we only had the two in the markets I cover. We had a weekly key reversal up last week, if only just, in US dollar, Argentine peso, blue dollar, and a weekly key reversal down last week in Aussie dollar against the Japanese yen. Again, only just. Neither have been dramatic in their subsequent actions, with the US dollar, Argentine peso, blue dollar heading a little lower, though mainly still within last week's action, and the Aussie dollar against the Japanese yen heading starting to head straight down yesterday, but today retracting back within last week's action. The rest of the technical patterns, the weekly technical patterns, have been in commodities. We had a weekly key reversal down in ICE Gasoil futures last week, which has seen a strong reactionary move back up this week. And this is somewhat unsurprising, as it was the only one of the main energy futures to exhibit any such weekly pattern. In the metals, LME 3-month zinc had a weekly key reversal down last week, but this week we have seen a strong reactionary move back up from last Friday's close, and though we are still within last week's range, we are nevertheless towards the top end of it. Paris Rapeseed futures last week had a weekly key reversal down, and even as recently as yesterday, prices started to pierce the bottom of last week's range, but they soon reverted higher and we've moved back within last week's range. More on this in tomorrow's weekly oilseeds and veg oils video commentary. Meanwhile, in Chicago lean hog futures, we had a weekly key reversal up last week, if only just, as this was right at the top of the market, a precarious place to have one. Well, this week we did see a follow through to even higher prices, but today we've seen a pullback, back within last week's range, though not by far. Finally, in the weeklies, we had a weekly key reversal down in ICE Dutch TTF gas baseload futures last week. And though we saw the start of a follow-on lower this past Monday to this pattern, this will soon turn back higher, back within the main body of last week's range. Over now to the monthly key reversals for May, and the first one to look at is rather interesting. There was an immediate countering monthly key reversal up in May in US dollar, Hong Kong dollar, and that's after a monthly key reversal down here in April. This is not a rare double pattern, but it is an unusual pattern, especially on a monthly basis, and especially given that US dollar Hong Kong dollar is so pegged between 775 and 785. What we saw last month was a move up from the lower band at 775 even all the way to a little short of the upper band at 785. We have a little room on the top, but there isn't that much. The next one I'd like to discuss is the monthly key reversal up in Minneapolis wheat futures seen in May. This had a pretty good follow-on higher this past Monday, but we've since seen a pullback yesterday, back within last month's range. Though I do note today we are starting to see some bullish incentives entering the market. I'd just remind you that monthly patterns are longer term patterns, and additionally I'll cover this in more depth in my weekly grains video commentary on Friday. Finally, we had a monthly key reversal up in EEX butter futures in May. We have not had any further moves higher nor lower, which is not a surprise in this illiquid contract, but it did come at the top end of a wide trading band, maybe even a bull channel formed over this year, between about 71.90 to 74.87, or between 72.10 to 75.36 if you follow the bull channel idea. As always, I'm happy to answer any direct questions with anyone who's interested, and with that, I'll finish this section from London, and I hope that you found these comments useful.
Thank you for listening and watching this broadcast. This weekly broadcast gives the essential market patterns and consequences. Please be aware of the risk disclaimer posted both at the front and at the back of this broadcast. The copyright is Eddie Tofpick and ADM Investor Services International Limited. And here comes the final important bit.